It's draft day in the NFL, and not the Kevin Costner movie. It is the 2024 NFL draft. The first round goes tonight, and I am so excited because there are so many different ways that this draft could really turn. When you think about how many teams are quarterback needy, given what we saw from the NFL this year, where we had some awful quarterback play, and now you have four, five, six guys that people are comfortable with taking potentially in the first round. So there is this influx of talent, and there are teams that do feel like they're kind of just a quarterback away. There are also teams that are a quarterback away from being 23 positions away from being really good. And I would suggest the team that's picking third falls into that category with the New England Patriots. So it's really interesting. And I think that's really where the draft, we say it every year, that's where the draft starts at 3. Because I do think one is Caleb Williams. And it seems pretty obvious now that Jaden Daniels is going to the Washington Commanders, which is an interesting spot. I am not overly sold on him necessarily. I'm not fully 100% a believer that he is going to be this transformational guy with Washington, but there's at least a bit of a situation around him offensively that you don't mind. They need to address, like, after they take him, it needs to, the next, however many picks they have, all need to be offensive linemen. But at 3, it's New England. And they are in an interesting spot because they do need a quarterback of the future. And if you think that's Drake May, then every analyst should tell you, or will tell you, that if you think the quarterback of the future is there, you take him and you just move on. The problem is they have nothing. Their offensive line sucks. The skill position players suck. They have nothing there to help this quarterback out. Now, they have Jacoby Brissett, who's going to go in there and just get pummeled for 8 to 10 weeks before the calls for a Drake May to come in will start. But this is an awful situation for a quarterback to walk into. And I just think you look at a couple of these and you are setting yourself up for failure, right? Like you thought Sam Darnold was the quarterback of the future. So Zach Wilson, quarterback of the future. So you have to take these guys high and then figure out the rest later. Some teams are really bad at figuring out the rest later. When you look at, on the other hand, like a Minnesota does feel like they should be one of the ones who are trying to trade up to get a quarterback. Like that makes complete sense to me because you have all the weapons around you. The offensive line is fine. You have a team there that can just throw a quarterback in and you feel good about them moving forward. But for New England, like I know a lot of Patriots fans do not want them to trade back. You just take a good quarterback and go from there. If you're able to get a few, like do the classic New England thing, able to get a few picks and try to build around something, you're not going to be that good next year. And there are a couple of quarterbacks in the draft next year, and then you overpay in a trade and move up and get them then. I just think that we have so many examples of you needing a foundation around a quarterback before you draft them to have success. And I know CJ Stroud, I probably would have been saying this about the Texans, like that this team isn't ready to just pluck in a quarterback, and he led them there. That is the exception, not the rule. So we'll see. I would imagine with how all of this plays out, my prediction still is New England is picking at 3. I think the Chargers are in a really tough spot because they need a tackle and a wide receiver, and they are in a spot where they can get one of the elite wide receivers. But if they do that, by the time they're picking again, all the good tackles are kind of gone. But if, like, there will still be some good receivers there, but they do kind of feel maybe a smidge high to be taking like a Joe Alt or something like that. But anyone that they would be moving back with, they might be moving back too far to then end up getting a Joe Alt or someone like that. So they're in this spot where it makes sense to go, like, take one of the elite wide receivers that are out there, but then maybe you don't fill this other need. Okay, well, let's fill this other need because there's depth here. Like, well, that's a little high. Okay, well, let's move back. That might be too far back. Like, they're just in this sweet spot where no answer feels like the right one. And so probably what there will end, my guess is they end up going with Latham, the kid out of Alabama, and then just get another wide receiver later and go from there. I don't. Everyone has had Minnesota trading up into this spot to try to go up and get a quarterback. I think that they will stick and pick with the spot at 5, which then puts the Giants in an interesting spot at 6 because they if you long-time listeners of this show, over 3 years now, will know I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones fan out there. I don't think he's very good. I think he had one good year and is wildly overrated. That being said, I feel like if you draft JJ McCarthy at 6, you are putting him in the exact same situation as you just put Daniel Jones in, with the exception that you don't have a Saquon Barkley to help bail him out. Like, you are putting JJ McCarthy into a worse situation than Daniel Jones is. And even if you think JJ McCarthy is a significant upgrade to Daniel Jones, he can't pass to himself. And so again, you're in this tricky spot. Do you go out and get one of these high level wide receivers to help out with your young quarterback now? Or do you go get a young quarterback and start the clock over again? I think the Giants are in a real interesting spot there at 6. Lastly here, on the quarterbacks in this draft, I, as a Raider fan, am getting really worried about the amount of mocks that have Penix going at 2. At 13 to the Raiders. My dream scenario was getting a tackle for the Raiders at 13, and then maybe moving up in the second round or late in the first round and getting Penix there. This is not a first round caliber quarterback. Even less so is Bo Nix, who might be going ahead of the Raiders at 13. Like, the Raiders could end up taking the sixth quarterback in the draft, which is insane to me. I don't view Nix or Penix as first round talents, and that is where I think the real mistakes lie. Like, McCarthy, May, Daniels, those guys are first round talents. They're probably not top of the first round talents, but if that is your need, that is your need. So go and address that. Where you get into trouble is using first round picks on players who aren't the caliber of first round picks and then putting them in as the starters because they're your first round pick. That is where you get into big trouble. Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance. That is where you really fall into the problems. Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, the list goes on and on. That is the problem with reaching on quarterbacks. It's not when you reach for a first round graded quarterback, but like the 21st overall player at 5. It's when you are getting like the 52nd best player at 13. And that is where I think big mistakes are made in the draft.